Day everyone. Today I'm gonna be discussing chapter 2 of Spring, and I'm here with my navigator Lindo. Hello Lindo.
Hi everyone, I'll be the navigator of today's session.
Cool. Yeah, chapter 2, developing web applications. So this chapter just gonna continue building the Taco application. So basically, like I explained in the last chapter, this application that we're building is an application where a user can basically create their own taco, right? So create a taco by inputting ingredients that create that specific taco they want, and then they can order that taco on the website. Um, and yeah, the specific functionality that takes place in order to achieve that. So with this chapter, it's going to be covering displaying information, processing form submission, validating form inputs that was made from the user, like when a user inputs data for like ingredients and so on, and also like they order details, like when they're ordering the tacos. Working with view controllers, so working with view controllers that handle specific requests, like get requests and post requests, and then also choosing a view template library. Okay, cool. So uh, let's see. So firstly, in our application, right? Just to show you how the application works. So here I have my home page. Welcome to Taco Cloud. This is the home page. Then, um, if I access this endpoint design, takes me to the design page. So this design page is where a user can create their own taco by inputting specific data. The data that you choose is basically the ingredients you want in your taco. So so I'm a user, and let's say I want to create my own taco. So the first type of ingredient is a wrap. So I'll say I want this type of wrap, right? And then the protein I want is ground beef. Then I choose the type of cheese I want, cheddar, and this type, and then here, and then I choose the sauce. And I can name my taco, right? As soon as I name my taco, I can submit the taco. So request is being made where I'm submitting data um that was inputted in that form. And then now you can see I have the taco that I created over here, the name of the taco. As soon as I click that submit button, I'm taken to the orders forward slash current page. This is showing the page where I can make the order for that specific taco that I created. So I have to put in specific details like my name, um, the street I live in, the city I live in, the state that I live in, as well as the zip code. Then over here, I input how I'm gonna pay. So the credit card, expiration date of the credit card, as well as the CVV um, code. A specific format um, is has to be placed in these input fields, and that format is checked to see if it's valid and if it matches the pattern that makes sure that the format is valid essentially. So um, this would be, for instance, my credit card number that I input here. Then I have like the expiration date, uh, then the code over here. So those are basically the credit card details. And I click submit, then I can submit. But what happens is when you don't submit the right format, it shows not a valid credit card number, right? So you have to change the format to match the specific format, and then the form is submitted. Cool. So let's jump into the code and see how all of that functionality works. So firstly, what I'm firstly going to discuss is the the class that runs the application, Taco Cloud Application.java. This is our startup class. So we find that over here. It's basically firstly we input our Spring application and also Spring Boot application. This is what helps us run our application. And then yeah, it has a main method which runs our application. When we run it, that page basically pops up where we can access the home page. Then um, I have models that we created over here. So we have the ingredient.java model, taco.java, and the taco order model. So firstly, these models basically um, is what holds our data, right? The data and the structure of our data in our application. So firstly, we have the ingredient.java model clause. So if I come here, this is our first model ingredient. So firstly, here, what this class is doing is just helping us organize the ingredients that the user inputs. When someone designs a taco, the app knows this is a cheese item or this is a wrap. So specific ingredients have different types. They categorized in different types, right? And that's because of this clause. So firstly, we import lombok.data. So lombok helps with specific methods that we don't have to write, like getters, toString equals, because it has those pre-built methods within it. So the annotation we import is data. It's gonna basically provide boilerplate code like getters, so we don't have to write getter methods, setter methods, toString method, equals method. That is already embedded in our program when we import data. So within the ingredient clause, we have three fields: ID, name, type. So ID is the unique ID for the specific ingredient. Name represents the name of the ingredient. And then type represents the type of ingredient that the ingredient is categorized in. Then here we have this enum. This enum is listing the allowed ingredients categories used by the app. So as you can see here, we say enum type, and this is the type of ingredients such as wrap, protein, veggies, cheese, and sauce. So if you noticed in my application, right, when I was on the design page, I could choose different types of ingredients, but they categorized in the different types. So you have these ingredients that are categorized in this type wrap, and then for instance, you have the sauce type, which has these ingredients over here that I can choose from. That's what the type here is doing. It's categorizing the ingredients in specific types. So yeah, that is the ingredient.java class. Then I have my taco.java, which is over here. So this taco class is just gonna help the app validate user input before saving it or processing it. So it ensures that tacos are complete and meaningful. No empty names or ingredient less tacos are allowed. So it's gonna validate the user input before saving and processing that data. So we import list to create a list that holds the taco ingredients. Not now from console. We import constraints dot not now. This is helping with validation, making sure that the value must not be null. And then we import size from constraints, which helps us validate that the size is correct of characters when we input the data. Then, as I explained, lombok.data is going to help create getters and setters. Then here we have our class. So what it's doing is it's basically, firstly, we have this private string name, this field. This represents the taco name, and it must be at least 5 characters long. We ensure that it's 5 characters long at least by placing this annotation at size and then making sure that the minimum of the size of characters is 5. That ensures that this validation has to be met, right? So the name must be at least 5 characters long. So um, basically, when we place the name of the taco here, it has to be at least 5 characters long. It can't be 3 characters, um, else it won't be valid and it won't allow the form to be submitted. And then here we have ingredients list, which is basically just holding the different ingredients, and it must contain at least one ingredient. Reason why we use size is to make sure that this validation here is correct, ensuring that um we can only place at least one ingredient over here and higher. So, and then this ensures that the data is not null. That's the taco clause. Then we have taco orders, which is the third model that we created here. So taco order is the class that represents a customer's taco order, and it also includes validation for all input fields. So this is basically when like a user essentially when a user essentially like uh it ends up on the order page after creating a specific taco. They end up on this page and have to input specific data. So this model holds that data, and yeah, so we import constraints.digits. This is going to validate numeric digits. Here, not blank ensures that fields is not null or empty. Constraints.pattern ensures that fields matches a specific pattern. Credit card number validates credit card number format. And then list, array list, and Lombok data. So within the taco order class, I have here delivery name field. This is delivery information essentially. Um, and not blank ensures that the delivery name is not empty. So that input box is not empty. And then it does the same for delivery street, where user inputs the delivery street. User should input the city that they live in, the state they live in, zip code, CC number, which is referring to the payment details with validation. So we put add credit card number as an annotation to ensure that it meets the validation of um, a credit card essentially. Then expiration of the credit card as well as the code, right? Then we have the list over here. It's an array list. It's a list of tuples in this order. So it's gonna hold the list of tuples that we make in that order. The on the order page essentially. So basically here we have add tuple method, which is gonna add a tuple to the order essentially. So how that works is it's gonna add a tuple to this tuples array list. How it does that is use this add method to add it to tacos over here. That's our taco order class or model, if you want to call it that. Then I have a converter called ingredient by ID converter. So what this basically does is it's a string converter. So you import it and it takes a string ID. So the string ID is going to take is the ID of um the ID of the specific ingredient, right? That a user inputs. And it takes that string and then it returns the matching ingredient object. So it converts a string into an object. What object is it converting it into? It is going to convert it into an ingredient object essentially, because that is initially what the user is inputting when they input their data. So we're going to use hash map and map for that. Um, then we import converter.converter over here. This is going to help us convert our string into an ingredient object. Then component marks this class as a string bean. Um, we have imported the ingredient model and then ingredient.type in order to use the different types that are categorized. for the ingredients. Then here we have our ingredient by converter class, and it implements from converter. Here we have this map or hash map ingredient map. So look up map from ingredient ID to ingredient object. This is what's going to hold basically our ingredient objects essentially. So first, remember it comes in the form of an ID, then the ID is changed into an object, which is the ingredient. So over here, I have the ingredient by ID converter. Um, this is basically a constructor. It's going to populate the map with the known ingredients. Well, how does it do that? Using put, firstly, we have um, essentially two values here. The first one is the ID, that is referring to the specific ingredient. So the program takes the ID. So as soon as a user chooses an ingredient, right, the program basically takes that specific ID and see. So yeah, when a user chooses a specific ingredient, what happens is the program takes that ID and a specific ingredient, a specific object is created after that. So it converts the string into an object. This object represents the new ingredient with the ID of the ingredient, the name of the ingredient, and the type of ingredient it's categorized in. And then it does the same for all ingredients in the program. All these ingredient objects are placed in the ingredient map, hash map over here, and now it stores all those ingredient objects. And then over here we have this convert method, which is going to convert the string ID to an ingredient by looking it up in the map. So it does that by using get ID from the ingredient map that is declared here, which is now holding all of these ingredient objects. So that is the ingredient by ID converter clause. Then gonna move on to the two controllers that I have over here. So the controllers are basically gonna handle the requests that are made in order to like get specific pages and also submit specific data. For instance, when a user is creating a taco, they import data and then they click submit. Um, so these controllers are gonna handle those functionalities and requests. So over here, I have the first controller, design taco controller, which you can already make a link to the page is when we design the specific taco controller. Uh, so over here, I have this controller here, and it's just gonna manage the design of a taco. So when I use arrays, lists, collectors, but mainly here, what we're gonna use is this get mapping functionality or annotation right here, which is gonna handle get requests. We make use of model attributes, which is going to bind the model attributes to our controller. Um, we make use of post mapping, which handles post requests. Request mapping is the base path mapping for a controller. Then session attributes stores model attributes in HTTP session. Then we have imported this here, which creates a log field for logging. Um, we import taco model, right? So that we can bind the model to the controller, taco order model, ingredients dot type, and the ingredient model. This is to trigger the validation on a method parameter, and then this is handling errors. So basically here we have our design taco controller. But before that, because we imported request mapping, um, this over here is gonna basically is basically saying that all handler methods handle parts under design under this specific URL endpoint. Um, And then this here keeps the taco order in HTTP session across requests. So then within our class, we have this model attribute annotation, which ensures that we add grouped ingredient list to the model before any request handler runs. So, so we have add ingredients to model, right? It's going to add ingredients to the specific model. So how it does that is over here we have this ingredients list, and we're adding all these ingredient objects to the ingredients list. Then here in this for loop, and here this specific variable, for each ingredient type, add a model attribute named after the type. So we store the types here. Then this for loop is gonna basically add um, all the model attributes named after the type. Then I have this taco order. Um, well, basically this order method. What this does is going to ensure a taco order is available in the model. Then I have here this taco method. It returns taco, the data in the taco model. So it's going to ensure that an empty taco exists in the model for the form to bind to. Hence why it creates this new taco object, which is currently empty. Then here I have get used made use of get mapping. Like I said earlier, it helps with get requests. So here we're gonna make a get request to a specific endpoint, so /design. And when that request is made there, we receive the design page, right? So this design page is referring to an HTML page that I created over here. The design page is essentially um, the design page we see here, where we can input our specific ingredients to create our taco. So as you can see, this div is the first ingredient group, right? Where we place the type of wrap we want. Here we place the type of protein we want, and all the way to all the different types of ingredients. And then we can name our taco by placing the name input as a text, and then we submit our taco. So that is the design page that it's referring to. Let's see. So yeah, then here we basically adding the taco to the taco order, right? That we created. Wait. Yeah, we're adding that to this specific variable, and then we're making sure. Basically, what it's doing here is just ensuring that validation is passed, and it adds the taco to the session order and continues. Then we return. Um, so this is just basically for when we submit that specific ingredients, that the specific taco we created, and click the submit button. Um, this runs, adds the taco to taco order, and then now we have our taco that we ordered after creating it, and then it logs this information, and then it just redirects us to the order / current page. So it's going to redirect us to the checkout page essentially. So just like I showed earlier, when we're done choosing the ingredients and we name our taco, right, then what happens is we click submit, takes us to this page. This is our order checkout page. Um, and that is referring to this page over here. So as we can see, it's the page where we fill in our order details, essentially. So, um, for instance, we put in our delivery name, the delivery street, the city, the state, the zip code, all the way till our credit card details like the CC number, credit card number, expiration date, and the code. And then we submit that specific um, all the details that we placed in there. In order to do that, specific controller has to handle that, and that is our order controller.java. So order controller is gonna handle that, and you can see it over here. So what's order controller doing exactly? This class is part of your Taco Cloud Spring Boot web app. It manages the order processing. Specifically, it displays the order form and handles its submission. So you can imagine that it's mainly going to use a post request to do that. So yeah, that's why we import post mapping and get mapping over here. Um, Import valid to enable form validation to ensure that we input the right format of the data. Then in our order controller class, we have firstly over here this order method. So this is going to create a taco order object and adds it to the model for all requests. So that's what that does. Then here is where we handle the get request to the order / current page. So it shows the order form page, right? So how that happens is what happens is as soon as that get request is made to this endpoint, it shows the order form of which I showed, which is this form over here that we're on currently, in order for us to put in our order details. Then make use of post mapping, which handles post request. So this is going to handle the post request made to / orders to process the submitted form data. How that works is we have this process order method, and it's ensuring that the data is valid by placing this annotation, and make use of the taco order model. So here, this if statement is basically saying if there's errors, we can just return to the order form, meaning that if the form validation is incorrect, so the format of the data the user inputs is not correct, it's just going to redisplay the form. So, for instance, if I put in the incorrect format of data, right, then when I click submit, it's not going to go to the next page. It's just going to it's going to show this page again. Um, that's what that's doing, this if statement. But if it's correct, then it will show order submitted with the taco order that was made, and it returns to the home page essentially. And yeah, that's basically how the application works. But lastly, I have this configuration um, functionality here in web config. This is basically, in short, this is basically where the request being made to the home page is, and it returns the home.html, which is over here representing our home page. Um, what web config also does is just helping with configuration of the application or the class essentially. So yeah, that's basically how um, the application works in chapter 2 so far. Yeah, that's a summary of it. Cool.